Welcome to Valuations and Succession Planning for Car Dealers, where two industry experts take a deep dive into the world of dealership valuations and the strategies that can drive growth and success. In this series, Dan Iosue, a succession planner with the Rawls Group, and Scott Womack, Senior Vice President of Mercer Capital, will cover a wide range of topics, including the fundamentals of valuations, industry trends, best practices, and common challenges faced by car dealers. Here we go.
We want to, on the front end, we understand that succession planning involves, as I define it, success through the next generation, but involves, leadership and ownership certainly, and involves, the management and managers and employees of the business, and for most of our clients involves family, and sometimes, most of the time, that's immediate family, lineal family, but often that can be others who are not blood related but consider family. They've been together for a lifetime in partnership, and they have chosen to be together, and are choosing to continue together as partners for reasons beyond money. So we've got a broad perspective of family, but we do know we need to that all of those main pieces are the pillars of what succession rests on. And then we look through specifically through a lens at what we call the succession matrix, but it starts with owner motivation and perspective. So what is their viewpoint on how they've gotten where they've gotten, and what's important to them going forward? What do they really want to have happen? What's the vision for the future look like? And how does that relate to the people in the business, their family in the business, the way that it's the way the business is structured, the way the business is currently performing is critical. We know that it needs to be firing on all cylinders to sustain, transition to the next generation. We're going to look at, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, estate planning as a sort of foundational basis to drive and ensure that the succession planning is achievable. And then, the leadership and management continuity, bench strength. What's the next generation or next level of sort of leadership look like? How robust is it? Do we have gaps there? What's the strategic plan for the business? Is there strategic planning? For a lot of our clients, the strategic, the vision, mission, values, and the strategic plan is all them and has been them, and that's obviously worked really well. And we don't want to change that. What we want to do is, we know that it's important to define that and get it out there so we can drive it through the next generation too. And then certainly, do we have successors? What who are they? What do they look like? What's their background? What are their kind of attitudes about being involved? What's the governance like? We know that we're going to need some family governance. What are the family dynamics, relationships? These tightly wound knots, how are they impacting areas of the business and the leadership, and motivation and perspective, as I think I mentioned in a previous episode. It's all interrelated, interdependent, and connected. And if we pull a thread in one area to untie a knot, it's going to have an impact on another. And so that's sort of that's our world and how we look at succession. The way that we work through it is we work in three different phases. The first phase is really it's essentially a gap analysis. We want to come in and look at open kimono, every area of the business, the documentation, the estate planning. We want to talk with certainly ownership, any family members involved. You mentioned talking to key managers and GMs to get an idea of the value of the business. And certainly when we do the same thing, we want to talk with the people that are responsible for the success today and who are important going forward. And it helps us understand, certainly get a better understanding of the fabric of the business, but also understand who they are and their goals, and what motivates them. We know that they're important. So what motivates them? What are they looking to aspire to and achieve? And so, we do that on the front end. It's a where are you today? We'll kind of open kimono. Let's take a look at all these different areas and identify what's working, what could be working better, where the gaps are, and our thoughts on how to move out and improve in those areas. The that process takes usually around 8 weeks or so, plus or minus a couple weeks, depending on the scope of the work. And then, it's our goal in that phase one process to earn the confidence of our clients that we've called it, accurately, and we're the right people to help develop the plan and implement the plan, which is the phase two. It's okay. Now we're going to get very specific, and we're going to move out in these different areas and start pushing things forward. Bring in other advisors, as necessary. Work with their current team of advisors to get things done on the estate planning side, on the valuation side, on the shareholders agreement structure side, and that takes usually close to a couple of years of really rolling our sleeves up and moving out. And then we're very fortunate to have a number of clients that we've been working with for the better part of the past five decades now. So we've got quite a few that we've been working with for a long time, and those engagements look different depending on who those clients are. For some, we're facilitating their board of directors meetings on a monthly basis. For others, we're connecting with them a couple of times a year to address issues, changes, just different things under circumstances that have evolved. So,
Dan, one question, I'll ask the question, I'll answer it in terms of how ours has changed, but in terms of process, in previous episodes, certainly with this industry, we've talked about sort of COVID, pandemic, and post. With regard to process, I know in our profession, that management interview, sort of due diligence call, depending on the purpose or triggering event of the valuation, if it's litigation, pre-pandemic, I would have always pushed to do that on site. Yeah. Less so, not that I don't enjoy a visit with the client, but more so from the standpoint of if a judge asks, hey, Mr. Womack, have you ever visited XYZ? And I say no, it can be a credibility issue. Yeah, I've noticed, I still make that request. I've noticed post-pandemic, in the Zoom world, that's not as much of a have to. And so I'm curious from your perspective, whether it be, client intake meetings or things like that, has that impacted the sort of on-site or in-person visits with your process?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's forced some change, on our firm, frankly. And it being, the pandemic and shifting to doing virtual and Zoom out of a necessity. I think the direct answer to your question is that there are certain things that we do, and most of the things that we do are, they're held near and dear to our clients' hearts. We're talking about family, their business, the intersection of family and business. It's sort of everything that's important, to them in life. And I mean, not to overstate that, but so there's a connectivity there in person that is necessary to a large extent. Now, what we've learned through having to do Zoom and remote is that we're able to get a lot done remotely, and particularly on the technical side of when it in working through the architecture of drafting agreements and what they do say and don't say, and kind of follow up in between meetings. Zoom is highly effective. We have done key manager interviews and discussions, and we did an entire phase one intake during. I trust a firm we did more than one, but I only stopped traveling for 6 weeks during the pandemic on the front end, so it's a skewed perspective. But I did do an entire phase one intake with ownership and leadership and management on Zoom, and it was effective. So yeah, it's kind of a long answer. We're able to do a lot more on Zoom. There are a number of things that are way more effective and impactful in the room, and just there's a certain level of connectivity that's there on some of these issues that we face that is just a little bit different, but it's different for and it's also different for every client. We have some clients who are just who roll with it a little bit better, and others who don't. So now we've got this mix. I think for us, the pendulum is almost swung back towards like, well, we can be there in person, so we're going to be there, but we can still get a lot done through Zoom too, and it's certainly more efficient and cost effective, for our clients to handle work that way. So, are you all doing? What's your balance now between in person and Zoom? Are you more effective? How are you handling, I guess, now with travel opening or open back up?
Yeah, I would say litigation, we still make the request. Zoom has been valuable for us to the extent that traditional phone calls, when we got into detailed conversations of, we realize with evaluation, everybody flips to the page with the answer on it, and that's important. But so's the rest of the report. And so when you get into the detailed questions and the guts of the evaluation, having Zoom or a shared screen type format is clearly better than trying to have a detailed numeric conversation over a traditional phone call. So for local regional valuations, I think what we do is so much of a relationship business that to the extent times and schedules allow, I still push to do those in person. And quite frankly, I enjoy, whether it's auto dealers or any industry, I enjoy the site visit I'm a very visual person, so to learn exactly, I've seen the numbers. Wow, y'all have been very successful, to sort of see what they're doing and the processes and systems. But the reality is, if it's a project in Arizona and we're not necessarily going to learn anything specific about going out there, Zoom has leveled the playing field for us in terms of kind of out of market expert type work.
Yeah. That's interesting. It completely makes sense. Man, I would love to be on an airplane less, but the reality is, I'm visual as well, and certainly like to get a feel for what's happening and that sort of sixth sense to navigate some of the things that we do. There's no replacement for being there in person, but certainly would work to strive a balance.
Sure.